Hi BookTube. I know my shirt's gonna peek through. It is just a Toronto Zoo sweatshirt, in case you're wondering. I always like trying to see what's on people's shirts, and if you just see like this part, it annoys me because I'm like, what does your shirt say? So I'm letting you know, Toronto Zoo. I love these sweaters. I have 2 of them, and they're super comfy. And they last a long time. Like, I've had this sweater for more than 10 years, and I love it. Okay, I'm not here to talk about sweaters. I'm here to talk about the favorite works of fiction I read in 2023. To clarify, because I've gotten this comment before, these are not books that were published. I don't know if any of these books were published in 2023. Life Ceremony, I think, may have been published in English in 2023. But generally speaking, these books are not published in 2023. They are just the books that I happened to read in 2023. So yeah, I'm just gonna hop into it. There's no order. There is a top 3, but there's no order for the rest of them. So the first one I want to talk about is Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. And I love Sayaka Murata. Any book of hers that I read is guaranteed to end up on my best of list. I actually have bought all 3 of her books new, which is very odd for me to do. And that was after I read them. So yeah, I know that I want these books on my shelf. So Life Ceremony is her collection of short stories. And she has this way of like presenting what would seem like disturbing information at first, and then kind of explaining it and showcasing it in a way that you've kind of come to accept it. So for example, her first story, it will be a bit of a spoiler, but the story is worth reading. So the first story is, we open up with a character who is grossed out by products that are made using the human body after their death. So her friend's wearing a hair shirt, so literally a shirt made out of human hair. And there's like furniture made from the bones of humans and that kind of stuff. And at first you're with her, you're just like, ew, that's gross. But then by the end I was just like, yeah, why aren't we utilizing the human body in this way? Is it a waste to put the human body in the ground or to burn it instead of using it as a resource? It was interesting. There's still some, ethical, moral dilemmas around there, but it gets you thinking. And that's what I love about Sayaka Murata, is that she makes you think in different ways. Okay, the second book, Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. This was the second book in I think it's just called the Burning Trilogy. I'm trying to find the first book on my shelf. Actually, I think I only have the second book on my shelf. Anyways, so yeah, so this is the second book. I do believe it's called The Burning. And it is amazing. I think the first one's called The Rage of Dragons, and we follow Tao as he's in this world that's very divided by class, and he wants to be the best that he can be, but he is inhibited by this whole structure. So he decides to train in a way that no one has trained before, and I just love watching him train. And the only complaint I had was this. It was the second book is that it was relentless. Like, it was just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, and there was like no time to rest. And I think, felt just as exhausted as Tao did. But I think that was very clever of Evan Winters to do, is just to like just keep pounding at it, keep like scene after scene. The chapters are short, and there's a lot of action happening, and it was just like, I also love the way that Evan Winter writes action. So yeah, I highly recommend Fires of Vengeance. Then I read Defect by Nino Cipri. I read, this is the second in the Finnaverse, so I think the first one is called Finna. This is the second book. It's not a continuation, it's just set in the same universe. So we're following, don't ask me the main character's name because I'm horrible with names. We follow a character, I believe his name's like, no, I don't think it's Darren. But we follow this character anyways. and he is working in this like IKEA-like warehouse store type thing, and the furniture comes to life and is like from different alternate universes and stuff like that, parallel universes and all that kind of stuff. And so he's kind of very proud to be this like store employee, but then things start going awry. I loved it. It was just a very kind of heartwarming story. Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. That was just a surprise. That was a real surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. I was expecting YA, and it's not. It's not. I think it will appeal to a lot of people who read YA, but it's not YA. If that makes sense. I'm not up with all the terms, but I think maybe new adult might be the term to use for it. Those darn kids and those new book terms. I'm not complaining. I just don't keep up with it. Anyways, yeah, I was really surprised by this book. It's about this girl gets a letter, this very independent woman in early, I don't want to say like early Mexico, but like sometime in history, not the present day Mexico. I'm doing such a good job selling this book. Early 19th century Mexico, mid 19th century Mexico. Anyway, she gets this letter from her cousin that's kind of concerning. Her cousin has left to go marry into this kind of ritzy, rich family. And she goes and she starts to uncover stuff. And it is such a well done example of like Gothic literature too. Yeah, it got all those tropes right, and then added in this like very weird kind of horror thing at the end. It was really well done. Trickster Drift by Eden Robinson. This is another book 2 in a series. Is there another? Oh yeah, there's other book 2s. Book 2s are really hitting hard home for me. So this is book 2 in the Trickster series by Eden Robinson, and I remember Jared's name because Jared is like, he's my baby. I just want to like take him and wrap him in bubble wrap and put him in bed and just like watch over him, make sure nothing bad happens to him. I love the Trickster series so much because I love the character of Jared. So in the first book we follow him. He's older teenager, I think 16, so I guess like mid-age teenager, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so he's in high school and he's a drug dealer with a heart of gold. And things start to go awry with him when his family starts falling apart. And in the second book we're following him as he moves away from his family and his drug and alcohol abuse, and starts living with his aunt, who is more involved in First Nations issues. I should mention this is a First Nations book. So yeah, I love him. I want to baby him so bad. It's what he needs. He won't let you, but it's what he needs. Okay. Then I reread, I think I reread almost all of the Murderbot books, the first 4. So Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells made it on this list. Just because like it's Murderbot. If you don't know, Murderbot is I don't know what the technical term for them is. They have human parts, but are mostly machine and are like computer appear instead of like a human brain type thing. If that makes sense. Yeah. And they are a security droid that's supposed to save people, but this one hacks its governor module and just wants to be left alone to watch their dramas, but things go awry. And I think it was the action in this one that I really liked. I can't tell you too much about it because, again, it's in the middle of a series. Cavalcade by Karen Boy. This was another favorite, and it was a surprise. I really like this. This is a classical dystopian novel in the veins of like 1984 Brave New World. And it came out around the same time. But it's written by a Swedish woman instead of an English dude. So it had some interesting perspectives. It was about this man who, I guess that the society is more important for us. So the society is like, there's zero individualism. You are not allowed like being alone for any period of time. And like everything you have to do has to be for the corporation. So this guy is trying to create this formula that he wants to call Calocaine that will force people to tell the truth. And it is about the consequences of that. What I really loved about it was the what is love if you can't be an individual? Can you love someone without telling them the full truth? Kind of thing too. So I was playing with this ideas of truth and individualism, and is it good to lie, and these ideas of constantly being productive. Like they had to be productive for every hour that they're awake. Has to be accounted for, and you have to do something for society. So it was a really interesting society, and very short, very good. Another good book is The Sword of War by Bao Nin, and this is, it likened it to All Quiet on the Western Front, which is about a German in World War One. This is about a soldier in the, now I'm not too familiar with the Vietnam War, but he was not on the side of the Americans. Okay, he was on the other side, this soldier. And it was very interesting being in this character's head, because he, again, jumps back and forth, just kind of links things wherever he can. Doesn't always make sense until you get a few more pages and you're like, okay, I finally see the connection here. And you get him just before the war, as a young boy deciding to join. Well, I say young boy, but again, he was probably, I think he was like 14, 15 when he decided to join the army. Him in the war, him immediately after the war. It actually opens with him immediately after the war. And then him after, and the effects, we didn't, I don't think Bao Nin had, at that time the book was written, the terms for PTSD, but it was very obviously a lot of stuff that was going on in this man's life that affected him so negatively after the war. And it was a lot about art and relationships, and just the overall feel of the book. It was really good. Okay, and now for the top 3 books in no particular order. I'm going to talk about Swallowed by Regine Ducharme first. Regine Ducharme is a Québécois author. Actually, 2 authors. All 3 authors are Canadian. Awesome. And 2 of them are from Quebec. So Regine Ducharme. He was kind of a... there was a hypothesis that he was probably agoraphobic. He's a very reclusive author, and this had only recently been retranslated into English, and I'm glad I picked it up. I actually picked it up at the library, and then I bought my copy like not even like 15 pages in. I was like, I need a copy of this book. It is amazing. We're following this 12-year-old girl, and it's an interesting situation, her childhood. So her father is Jewish and her mother's Catholic, and they agreed to split the children. So the mother is raising the son Catholic, and the father is raising the daughter Jewish. And they have a very tumultuous relationship. And part of the result of this is that our main character is quite an odd child. She is, I'd probably say, almost psychopathic, in that she really does not want people to form attachments to her, but she very much clings on to other people, so that's why I hesitate to say maybe psychopathic, because she is able to form very intense, that's the word, very intense relationships with the people around her. So for example, her brother, she's very attached to her brother, but her parents, especially her father, want to discourage that, because the daughter is his and the son is hers. And then we follow her as she grows up. So I think not much time passes, so not a lot of growing up, but like the early teenage years with her, and she's just such a fascinating character to read from. And the writing was beautiful. I loved Regine Ducharme's writing, and so I'm looking forward to trying to find more of his work in English. Then The Strange Scent of Saffron by Melina Babin. She's again a Quebecois author. And this was a really interesting story about this woman, this strange woman. I really like when Quebecois authors write strange characters. They just tend to do it really well, and I want to know why. I think I'm going to delve more into that this year. So that is about this really strange woman. She's on the run from her father and brother, who it was abusive, but in a not overt way. Not you can't not call it abusive, but it's not like a straightforward abuse, if that makes sense. And we kind of get hints at her story as opposed to like direct lines to her story. So she's running away. She has this kind of, it's not necessarily a pet fox, but this tamed fox that follows her around. And we actually get perspectives from the fox too, which is kind of cool. But anyways, so she's kind of been isolated from society, and she doesn't get quite what's going on. She goes to this restaurant and she dines and dashes. And then and then she has the nerve to show up at the chef owner, house and asks for a place to stay. And he lets her. And we also find out that he is dying of AIDS. So it's about their relationship, and this, I guess, heist of sorts that they're planning. Yeah, it's very good. They're planning to steal some saffron, which is the strange scent of saffron there. Yeah, it was just a short, really weird character, really weird relationships, but also heartwarming, because you do have this man who's going through some stuff and he's being confronted with this person who just stole from him, and he decides to extend compassion. Yeah, it was just really strange but heartwarming. And you're rooting for people with questionable morals. Yeah, morally gray characters. And the last book in the top 3 is Red X by David Demchuk, and man, this was a horror novel, and I loved it. And I don't always love horror. I don't always do well with horror. And this book actually did scare me at times. I had to put it down a few times. I couldn't read it at night. So basically this book, it's a series of interconnected stories, like tightly interconnected stories, where each character is either killed or is in some... When I say relationship, I don't mean like... There are some romantic relationships, but also like friendships and like roommates and stuff like that. So different types of relationships. So they know someone who's been killed in this horrific manner, and the only thing linking all of them is that they're all gay, and they all have this, come into possession of this red book, and it goes into early gay history in Canada, and some weird folklores involving like different creatures. I thought it was a ghost, and there is some ghosts, but there's also like a creature in it as well. I won't tell you too much more because that doesn't get revealed until further later, what the creature is. But yeah, it was really well done, and you could tell that he was pulling on his own history and his own knowledge of the AIDS epidemic specifically. because that's where generally where it starts. It starts at different points in gay history in Canada, and they're kind of like the setting, but they're not plot, if that makes sense. I hope it does. It was really, really well done, and I looked forward to reading more by him as well. So those are my top, I guess, 12 books of 2023. Let me know what your favorite book was from this past year, and thank you for watching.